Hello everyone, it's Jay and welcome to another video. And today I am making the video that I wanted to make for a long time now, and it's me talking about my kryptonite, let's say, and that is my anxiety disorder and depression on top of that. So yeah, let's talk about it today. But first, mug of the day, I cannot miss it, and I have some new cute spooky Halloweeny mugs, and one of them is from Flying Tiger, and it's this cat mug. It's a very vintagey kind of Halloween vibe, and I'm starting to appreciate it so much more these days. I love that vintagey Halloween vibe. So cool. I have anxiety disorder. I've talked about it many times here on my channel. I actually have videos specifically on my anxiety disorder. I filmed it around 3 years ago, and I just watched it before filming this video because I really wanted to reflect on what the old video looked like. And look, you can go and watch it. It's still up on this channel. I might come to a point where I start private my old videos. I already privated some of my old videos, but I might private that video at some point. Right now, it was really interesting for the reflection and how I felt about my anxiety back then. I must tell you, I was a mess, and it's kind of great because I still feel like a mess regarding to my anxiety, but with the comparison, suddenly I feel like I've grown so much and gotten so much better. Today I'm gonna talk about generalized anxiety disorder, and let's start now. Today I have my notes on a paper printed out, like, you know, today I'm being extra fancy. Usually I just write my notes down this notebook, but today I have a printed notes on this paper, and I actually uh, wrote those notes like, well, many months ago. And since then, I've been planning to make this video, but as I guess I was waiting for the right mood. I have a million ideas about my YouTube videos, but I just have to be in certain mood to film certain things. As usual, I'm just gonna start reading out some definitions that I've printed out, so I can give you the basic and not just like speaking of my raw emotions. We'll get to that part. But first I need to organize this to give you some form of context and definition. So let's go. Generalized anxiety disorder is a condition of excessive worry about everyday issues and situations. It lasts longer than 6 months. In addition to feeling worried, you may also feel restlessness, fatigue, trouble concentrating, irritability, increased muscle tension, trouble sleeping, blah blah blah, so on. Some things I mentioned in my last video, I sort of had I thought I had it figured out. Not my anxiety figured out, but like the understanding of my anxiety. I thought I had it figured out. And now I can't say I have it figured out. I don't even have it figured out now, but I have much better understanding of anxiety in general and myself in general. So I'm just gonna mention some of these things I said in the last video. I always kind of had it. I don't ever remember not being anxious in my whole life. I just didn't know it was anxiety. Uh, Only at like 14, I learned there is a thing that exists. Like I found out anxiety exists, and I didn't really know till I was around 16 that that was what I had, because I didn't understand what it was. And then I started understanding what it was and realized, oh, that's what I got. I was always told that I was just like a little shy and silly about things, and just I was more prone to stress, which, like, yes, I am more prone to stress because I have an anxiety disorder, that's why. But I've been told just I'm a little too stressed, I'm a little too worried, I'm a little bit too emotional, I'm just shy. And I was told I had it by a psychiatrist at 17, uh, but got official diagnosis last year. And I mentioned this in a mental health video before, where I just like, I've been diagnosed kind of by a psychiatrist in a way that I was told you have anxiety disorder, but like I never had it written down as a diagnosis. I don't know why, because some doctors apparently just hate diagnosing people. I don't know why, even though they told me I did have anxiety disorder, but that was part of the problem. That was part of why I didn't really know what my anxiety specifically was like, if that makes sense. I've been on medication for my anxiety since I was 17 till 19. Had a little break for a couple of months, and then from 20 on, I've been on medication, and I'm 25 now. Um, and I've tried many different types of medication. Might speak about it later on. According to my research, it says that 4% of population have an anxiety disorder, but personally I think it's more than that, even though it might not look like it does for me. I have pretty severe anxiety. I've always had pretty fucking severe anxiety. So I think that not everyone with anxiety disorder just has to look like me, or as I did a couple of years ago when it was really, really extreme. There are certain codes. I've only gotten into this a couple of months ago. There are certain codes for different diagnoses. This works for everything. If you have asthma, there's a code for it. If you have an anxiety disorder, there's a code for it. The code for generalized anxiety disorder is F41.1, and there are a couple of subtypes of generalized anxiety disorder, and I was always confused about if I have generalized anxiety disorder or like mixed anxiety depressive disorder. And then just because I have this book, it's Max's, he has it for his school psychology, and it's diagnosis and therapy of like mental disorders. And thanks to this book, I finally understood what this means. So I didn't know which type I had, but I have generalized anxiety disorder, but mixed anxiety depressive disorder is actually just a subtype of GAD. And if before you say like no, that's wrong, they're actually different things. Every country has a bit of a different ways to diagnose these things. I thought it was the same everywhere. I fucking wish that it would be much easier, but I'm from Czech Republic and this is how it works. I have generalized anxiety disorder, but my subtype is mixed anxiety depressive disorder. So if I interchangeably use GAD and this type, it's because that's just a subtype of GAD that I personally have. So the number for mixed anxiety depressive disorder here is F41.2. For example, the code F41.3 would be a different mixed anxiety disorder subtype under GAD. And for example, OCD would be F42. So just so we have a bit of understanding of those codes, there are just different subgroups of mental disorders, and F40 are these kind of things. Even like gender dysphoria would be underneath F40. Now I'm gonna tell you more specifically about my subtype, which is mixed anxiety depressive disorder. In patient, anxiety occurs as well as depression. Symptoms are equal. Now I'm not sure what to really imagine underneath like symptoms are equal. Like I imagine both anxiety and depression are just consistent with this. Now basically my depression comes in episodes, and the more I'm into healing and medication and therapy, the less typical the depressive symptoms are. They're not as strong anymore. In this disorder, similarly, anxiety can be also combined with other manifestations such as phobias, obsessive manifestations, and so on. But these symptoms do not prevail over anxiety symptoms. So there are other funky things that you can have mixed with this, but the anxiety is the main issue. Of course, you can have other diagnoses, comorbidities. You often have both anxiety disorder and, I don't know, depressive disorder, and so on. You can have them mixed, or you have anxiety disorder and you also can be diagnosed with OCD. But just within this diagnosis specifically, the anxiety is the main thing. I hope I'm making sense. So now I've given you the general idea, and now I'm gonna be talking more specifically on my experience. In this video that I filmed 3 years ago, I was in much darker place, I suppose. And even the way I described my anxiety, even the fact that I was super anxious filming that video, I was in a much darker place, and I was describing my anxiety like as a demon compared to today me saying I'm gonna talk about my kryptonite. uh, my anxiety, that's how I take it. It's my kryptonite, and it's always here, and it's really hard to deal with. But I guess compared to how I was, much better now. I have some notes about the treatment of anxiety disorders, which is therapy. The most common therapy used for anxiety disorders is CBT. It's about like recognizing and changing your behaviors, exposure to your fears, and so on. And some of the medications that are used for treating it is anxiolytics, antidepressants, and sometimes antipsychotics. Now I'm gonna tell you a bit of my journey. So at the time I was filming this video, I was actually talking about changing my psychiatrist. So this was right before I switched to my current psychiatrist, who I love and who has helped me so much, immensely so much. And before that, I was really fucked. No one really helped me, and like my first psychiatrist was calling me like "you poor thing," which not helpful at all, is it? And my other psychiatrist was like the other way around, and she was telling me like it's not that bad, people have it worse, even though like I am basically the worst like manifestation of anxiety. When I was getting diagnosed officially, like that someone actually took the time to diagnose me properly, that was the first time I found out more information about it for me. And the rest I have read in this book and on the internet. Whatever happening is like doctors telling me that my anxiety is like really extreme. And I'm saying this is not like me playing special snowflake, I promise. This is just like the medical professionals are genuinely like surprised about my manifestation of anxiety. Like they call it really untypical. And when the doctor was diagnosing me, this was that was the day I got diagnosed with this GAD and also like my personality disorder. And it was pretty heavy. It was like 5 hours of diagnosing. It was pretty crazy. But I'm glad I did that because it really helped me up on my journey. This doctor was telling me basically that like I'm extremely neurotic. And I also want to explain to you what neurotic means, because I think we kind of all know what being neurotic means. However, I still feel like I need to give you the definition just for better understanding. Neuroticism in psychology and development, a broad personality trait dimension representing the degree to which a person experiences the world as distressing, threatening, and unsafe. Generally, people with anxiety disorder, with phobias, with OCD are just more highly neurotic. And that's what the doctor told me when I was getting diagnosed. And she told me that basically I was extremely neurotic, to which I replied like, yeah, I thought that's what happens like when you have anxiety disorder. Isn't that kind of part of it, that you are more neurotic? And she tried to explain to me like, no, because like you're showing signs of being like so extremely neurotic that it's actually untypical even for people with anxiety disorders. Great, so I won. Congratulations, me, I guess. In these mixed type anxiety disorders, you can have other like symptoms of other things without actually having diagnosis of something extra. So for me, she told me that I actually show a lot of signs of OCD, but it's not enough for me to be diagnosed with OCD by itself. And I absolutely agree. She went back to the like, well, have you ever had these obsessive behaviors? Have you ever these and these? And I was like, well, oh, actually, yes. Like, yes. So I had other symptoms with my anxiety disorder that I guess makes sense because of, first of all, because of my mixed type, and second of all, because apparently how neurotic I am, how highly neurotic, untypically neurotic I am. And I also had like paranoia and some of these things. I don't talk about these things much, but like they're also part of my anxiety disorder. At the time when I was filming this video, I also didn't know what other stuff I had. Like, I didn't know I was also neurodivergent. I didn't know I had a personality disorder. There was a lot I found out over time. And now I'm gonna talk about the treatment and what kind of helped me to end this on kind of positive note. First, finding the correct medication was just the most important first step for me. I used to take antipsychotics and it made me really fucked. That's just not a medication for me. They help some people tremendously. They're just not for me. So now I'm taking antidepressants, the kind of main thing I do have for my anxiety, and I have great antidepressants now, and it's really good. And I also have anxiolytics on side of that, and I only take them when I need them. I used to take these back in the day as well, but my anxiety was not managed at all, and I had to take them all the fucking time, the maximum dosages. And it's not medication for that. It's supposed to be medication to help you out a bit extra on certain days when you are really anxious. And that's how I take them now. Hi, sorry to interrupt this video, but I had apparently like big difficulty speaking that day, and I just got sort of lost in it and I spoke too much, but none of that makes sense. So I just wanna fill it in. I was just talking about my medication and basically that now I have medication that works, and I wanted to talk about therapy, but got a bit lost in it. So what I wanted to say is CBT didn't work for me at first, and there are a couple of reasons for that. First being the reason that I didn't have the correct medication for my anxiety, which means I wasn't mentally or physically properly capable of going to therapy. Other reason why therapy didn't help me at first was that I didn't have a very good therapist that was super helpful to me, but not the case anymore either. And the third reason was that I also had other underlying conditions that were not treated. So those are kind of the three main reasons why therapy didn't work for me at first. Now I am at a much better place. I go to therapy. I have better medication. I am just overall so much better, and my anxiety is the best tamed that it ever was, and it still sucks so bad. I also proceed to talk about how long it took to find the correct medication and how thankful I am for it and for my psychiatrist for taking the time to actually help me find the correct medication, even though it took me a really long time. And that's basically what I'm saying here. And now let's go on with the video, and I'm gonna talk about other things that help me besides medication now. But just saying that medication really was the first step, because without it, I wouldn't be capable of doing anything more. So, yeah. Then there are things you can do for yourself, and that is basically one of my tips is occupying my thoughts and staying busy, but also recognizing when you need to rest. And this is not as easy as it sounds when you start listening to your instincts, and that was not possible for me without medication, without therapy, without help. Part of it is also movement really helps me. Basically what I can do that day, I will do, even if that's just a short walk. Then obviously you need to be surrounded by good people who are understanding, people who make you comfortable. And then my last note is exposure to my fears, but only works a little bit and only sometimes. And it's kind of embarrassing to admit now, but it shouldn't be embarrassing, because that's what my anxiety made me do. I For a while I could not leave the house. Then I could leave the house with somebody, or I could only leave the house at night, and I would never go grocery shopping by myself. That was terrifying. Pick out packages were things absolutely impossible for me. And these are things that are still hard for me. But only last year, I started to be able to go to the doctor by myself, to go grocery shopping. And there are still new things that I'm doing these days that I just never done before by myself. Like I started picking up packages and sending packages. That was a big step for me that I started doing. And I never went to the post office by myself. Post offices are something else. They're terrifying. And I was supposed to pick up a package at a post office. So actually, last week was the first time ever in my life that I went by myself to the post office and picked up a package. So there are still things that I'm doing for the first time because my anxiety never allowed me to do those things. So since I found my new psychiatrist, since I moved out of home, since I have people who support me, uh, since I go to therapy, all these things, since I do work on myself this hard, I'm slowly starting to do just the things that most people would consider just like basic automatic. That's like just like what everyone does. A couple of months ago, I noticed I'm finally starting to be able to switch my thoughts quite well, actually, and telling myself this is okay. What's the worst thing that can happen? Blah blah blah. These things never worked for me. I could not comfort my thoughts at all. And the part I'm suffering with right now, like still extremely suffering with my anxiety, is the physical symptoms of anxiety. I also do have a stomach sickness, and my anxiety can make that worse. And I hope this doesn't sound too depressing. It's actually much harder to talk about than I thought it would be. I thought I was really comfortable and confident talking about this. Who knows, maybe in 3 years time I'm gonna film another update and tell you I'm doing amazing. I want to leave this on like really happy and positive note, because it might help some and it might help myself to really remember that even though a lot of days I feel anxiety is my fucking kryptonite, even though it makes me feel fucking helpless a lot of the times, it's so much better than it used to. And if someone like me, who is this like special fucking anxiety where I'm like apparently extremely neurotic, if I can get better, so can you. So can you. And that's I guess what I wanted to say about this. And I'm sorry this took so long. It's gonna be hard to edit. And if you stay till the end, thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, bye.